Welcome to Psych Odyssey, where we guide you through an adventurous quest for your mind, body, and spirit. Today we are going to be talking about postpartum depression. This is a depression that occurs after birth. Motherhood is a very good experience. It's a very good journey, and a lot of people will see you with your kid and have baby fever. They'll see the pictures you take with your child. They'll see how you live with your child, how pretty they are. But there's another side to motherhood. And this is now postpartum depression. This is the exact opposite of what people just see and admire out here. And some mothers actually go ahead not just to have postpartum depression, they develop postpartum psychosis. When it comes to psychosis, this is at a point where someone is out of touch with reality. They start having delusions, they start having hallucinations, they can't function normally. Postpartum depression, it does not only affect women, though 1 out of 7 women have postpartum depression. So as you walk around the streets, as you sit in that bus, know there's someone in that bus that has postpartum depression. And men are not safe from it either. Men also get postpartum depression, especially the year the child is born. So 1 out of 10 men get postpartum depression. The major signs and symptoms of postpartum depression, as we say, usually people are different, so people get different signs, different symptoms, but there are some that are common to most people. One of the signs is insomnia. Most of these new mothers or mothers who have postpartum depression, they do not sleep. They sleep for 2 minutes, they're up. They just stay awake the whole time. And when you stay awake consistently, you're not sleeping during the day, you're not sleeping during the night. It's a sleep disorder on its own. Despite you having the postpartum depression, you now have insomnia on top of that. So insomnia is one of it. The second sign is crying a lot. They cry a lot. You know, there's that, yes, once in a while you might feel overwhelmed with the child, especially if it's the first time and maybe you don't have people around to help you, things like that. You might feel overwhelmed, but a mother who has postpartum depression, they cry a lot. Like, you come in the morning, they're crying. You come in at 10, they're crying. Every time they're crying. So that consistent crying all the time is another sign. Another sign is isolation. They usually try to isolate themselves from society, especially if it's a single mother. They find it easier to just isolate themselves and just keep it to themselves. And then another reason women who have postpartum depression might isolate themselves is because they feel guilty. When you have postpartum depression, most people don't understand what you're going through. And some will even say you're just lazy, you don't know how to take care of your child. I've had 9 children, why have I never had what you have? So even the husbands most of the time don't understand what's going on. They just assume maybe you don't like the child or you are not ready for motherhood or things like that. So it's just easier for them to put themselves in their small corner and stay there. So isolation is another sign. Another sign is changes in appetite. The appetite can either increase or decrease kabisa. So they can either overeat, stress eating, you know, you eat a lot, they're always eating, stress eating, and they're not eating healthy food. They're eating mostly junk food, and you see they're breastfeeding. So it is not really healthy. Or they don't eat at all, they lose appetite. This is a mother who is nursing and she's not eating at all. So that's another sign of postpartum depression. Another sign of postpartum depression is the mother will not want to bond with the child. Now this is the major sign actually. The mother does not want anything to do with this child. Nothing. They don't want to breastfeed this child. They prefer to give the child formula. So this woman will not be able to bond with her child at all. The child might be crying there and they're just there. They don't care. They don't want to carry the child. They don't want to sleep with the child. They don't want to feed the child. They just don't want to be around this child. That is another sign of postpartum depression. Another sign is they have lower libido. They have no interest in sex at all. when you give birth to your child, most of the time, if it's normal, you're given 6 weeks to heal. They tell you to stay for 6 weeks, don't have sex, don't do anything. Then after 6 weeks, if you feel okay, it's not like after 6 weeks everybody heals. So after 6 weeks, if you're okay, then you can go back to having sex. But most women, after the 6 weeks, another 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, they still don't want to have sex. They don't want their husbands to touch them. They don't want anything at all. So the lowered libido is another sign. Another sign is thoughts of harming themselves or the baby. So they usually get these thoughts of harming themselves. I'm sure you've seen these videos where mothers are slapping their children, the child is crying, the mother is slapping, strangling the child. The thoughts are now manifested. So when you have these thoughts of harming yourself, cutting yourself in any way, or plucking hair, things like that, or harming this child, that is another sign of postpartum depression. Another sign is they usually have suicidal thoughts. So after having this child, out of nowhere now, you start having suicidal thoughts. You think you want to go. Most of them, they say they just want to go and not come back. They just want to go. You ask them, you want to go where? They don't know where they want to go. They just want to go away from this child and not come back. Another sign is severe fatigue. We understand after having the child, you're usually tired, your body is trying to get back to its normal self, you're trying to adjust, you have the baby, sometimes you're not sleeping, there's colic, there's everything else going on. So we understand you'll be tired, let's say most of the time. So you might find this woman has been helped throughout. She has not done anything since morning, maybe just breastfeeding the child, but she's still so tired. She's just tired. She's like, I'm so tired, I cannot do anything. I am so tired, I cannot do anything. So those are the signs of postpartum depression. There are some others, but as I said, everybody has their own signs because we're different. But these are some of the common signs and symptoms. If you have these signs and symptoms and they last for more than 2 weeks, you have to seek help. If it's within 2 weeks, then it ends. That is baby blues. That's another type of postpartum depression. It's mostly just your body and your mind readjusting to accommodate this child. So yes, you might be angry, easily angered, you're cranky, you're eating too much, you're tired, all these signs that I've said. You're all that. But after 2 weeks, if they're gone, that is when your body was just readjusting to accommodate this child. Some of the factors that we're going to mention will predispose you to postpartum depression. So these are some of the risk factors that may actually expose you to postpartum depression. Number 1 is history of depression or perinatal depression. If you've had any history of depression, any sort of depression, you're likely to have postpartum depression. Another thing is the age of the time you're getting pregnant. Yeah, these young mothers, teenage mothers, they are at a very high risk of getting postpartum depression. This is because they're not psychologically prepared, they're not mentally stable yet, they're not even financially stable. So there's going to be a lot of pressure, a lot of stigmatization, a lot of judgment from everybody around them. So they are actually predisposed to postpartum depression compared to older women. Another risk factor is when you give birth to a child who has special needs. It is very hard to take care of a child who has special needs. They require a lot of attention, sometimes a lot of medication. So yes, it is a lot, and it can actually cause you to have postpartum depression. Because of the pressure, the stress, you have to take care of this child, you have to make sure they're okay. Sometimes you don't have the money, sometimes you don't even have the support. Maybe people are alienating themselves from you because of that. So it can cause postpartum depression. Another thing that can cause postpartum depression is multiple births. When you have twins or triplets, quadruplets, sextuplets, all that. A person who has had one child can manage easily compared to a person who has more children. You've given birth to triplets at the same time. This mother is more likely to fall into postpartum depression if they don't get the support that they need. You need support from your husband. You need people to help you at least. You can imagine having triplets and you're just alone. Nobody's helping you. Nobody's coming through for you. Nothing. You can feel stressed and overwhelmed, and with time it can develop into postpartum depression. Another thing, I think I mentioned it somehow, it's the social support or living alone. When someone does not have the support when you give birth, that's why I even said young mothers are more likely to fall into postpartum depression, because you get pregnant while you're in school. Nobody is going to support you in school. All you're going to get is judgment. People are going to judge you. People are going to mock you. People are going to laugh at you. There is no support. And then in most of our cultures, our parents, they cut you off. Come back home, you're pregnant. They tell you, hey, go back to where you got pregnant from. Go back. So you're alone. You don't have anybody to help you financially, and most importantly, you do not have anybody to help you psychologically. You have this child, nobody is helping you. You don't know where you're going to get your next meal. You don't know where you're going to stay. You don't know anything. No support. And then you live alone. Entirely, you're in isolation. When you're in isolation, you are prone to get depression, because it is just you and this child alone. You have no friends to talk to. You have no one to laugh with. You have no one to share this experience with. As I said, birth is this story about, I don't even know how many people I have told and how many times I have told people my process of birth, and we really laugh about it, and it is so much fun. Though yeah, I could labor, no shit, but when you tell people this story, you're telling them, oh my god, I was in labor, my gown was just flying, and people are seeing my butt and everything, but I don't care, I just want this child out, and then there was this problem and this problem, and they laugh about it, and now you see your child is okay, and they help you with the child. Sometimes you get to sleep when they are there, they help you, they clean the utensils, they clean your house. But when you're in isolation, you have nobody to talk to, you have nobody to vent to, you have nothing and no one. So you are predisposed to fall for postpartum depression. Some of the causes of postpartum depression: one is hormone change, the hormonal imbalance. As we said, after you've had the child, there's a lot of changes in your body, and this includes your hormones. So your hormones are still somehow imbalanced, and you can get help from the hospital for this. Another cause is anxiety. When you have anxiety, especially as a new mother, you're always so worried about this child. Am I holding them too tight? Am I too free with this child? Will they fall? Have they fallen? Am I breastfeeding enough? Am I carrying them well? When you keep having these anxious thoughts every time, they can also lead to postpartum depression. That's why we said it's good to have people around you, have mothers as well around you, so that they can tell you it's okay, help you calm down, help you understand that you're doing the right thing, you're on the right track and everything, so that you're not always questioning and being anxious, being fearful of what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens all the time. It is good to be around people. They help you understand that you're on the right track. Another cause is the self-image that you have at the time. Childbirth, yes, there are people, they give birth after 1 week, hourglass shape, isharudi, and there are some people who will give birth and they change completely, and how this affects them is how the people will come at them. When a mother has just had their child, you cannot body shame this woman. You're not even supposed to talk about this woman's body. They're still trying to adjust, they're still trying to figure themselves out, figure out their child, figure some things out, and you're there like, your stomach, your potty, wache kukula kidogo, can you try and eat more of this and less of that? You have a very big tummy, you've added weight, you can't be doing that. And when people do that, their self-image, the image they'll now create in their heads, is not the same they'll have had before, and this can cause postpartum depression. There's some women who blame this child. They're like, before I had a child I was pretty, now I have a child and this child has made me look like this. So the self-image at the time. Also, the birth process of a woman can determine if she can have postpartum depression or not. There are some birth processes that are traumatic, very traumatic, very. There are women who stay in labor ward for days. And there's a woman who will walk in labor ward. They start feeling contractions at 9 p.m. By 10, they already have the child. And you're like, what just happened? And there are women who will really suffer and tear, and the trauma is a lot, to the point that they think of having another child. They're like, I am not having another child. And on top of that, the healing process, it takes time. And if they don't get a person who can support them and understand them well and take them through this process well, they can actually develop postpartum depression. There are 3 different types of postpartum depression. The first one is baby blues. I had mentioned it earlier. Baby blues has the same signs and symptoms of PPD, most of them, and it only lasts for at most 2 weeks. This is after you've had your child. 2 weeks after, it is gone. It can even take less than 2 weeks. That is baby blues. You have the same signs: anxiety, you have new thoughts about the child, suicidal thoughts, you feel severely fatigued, you feel tired, you feel depressed, all that. But it only lasts for less than 2 weeks, 2 weeks at most. Another sign is now the postpartum depression itself. This is what we've been talking about. So postpartum depression, it's now the depression itself. And as you said, it's a major type of depression. It is not something small, it's not something mild, it is critical. This person can wound themselves, they can harm themselves, they are sad, they feel worthless, they feel they have nothing to live for, they don't want to see the child, they don't want to relate with the child, they don't want to bond with the child, they want to die, they want to go away. Now that is PPD itself. Then there is postpartum psychosis. As we said, some women don't just develop postpartum depression, they go ahead to develop postpartum psychosis. When you get to a point where you have psychosis, you have to use medicine. You have to be admitted in a hospital because you're now hallucinating. Yeah, you're hallucinating, you're seeing your own things, there's delusions, you have obsessive thoughts about the child. You're obsessing over this child. Maybe you're thinking of how you can harm this child. The thoughts are obsessive, non-stop. You're out of touch with reality at this point. So the postpartum psychosis, it is more severe than all the other forms of postpartum depression. Complications that come with postpartum depression. There are actually 3 major complications that come with postpartum depression. The first one is you yourself as the mother or the father who is affected with postpartum depression. If you're the mother who is affected by postpartum depression, you're actually at a risk of getting depression itself. You're at a risk of depression. You will fall into depression several times, not just this. And postpartum depression is actually diagnosed up to 1 year. By the end of 1 year, it is now not postpartum. You're now just depressed, clinically depressed. It is not postpartum anymore. If you're lucky enough to still have your spouse at the time, this complication that you have, if you are depressed, your husband is more likely to get the depression as well. That's why we said even men are not immune to this. Now, if I am depressed, I have postpartum depression, my husband is probably going to have postpartum depression, or he's just going to be depressed because I am not the same. I am not talking to him. Maybe I'm not eating. I am not sleeping. I don't want him to touch me. He is going to get depressed. I don't want to hold the child. I don't want to be around the child. He is going to get depressed. And when the both of you are now depressed, it is definitely going to strain the relationship. A lot of people, they get divorced after having their first child. If you have noticed, there are some couples who cannot handle it. And this comes as mostly because of this postpartum depression. I am depressed. I depress. You get depressed because I am depressed. We are both depressed. We are not seeking help. It strains the relationship. Nobody wants to talk to the other. Nobody wants to be the first one to talk. Nobody understands even what's going on. There's some people who actually don't even know what postpartum depression is. So you don't understand yourselves. You don't know what to do. You don't know who to talk to. Maybe you don't even seek the help. And eventually you decide, you know what? Let everybody go their separate ways. The third complication, it's the children. If you have children, and maybe there are some people who will have the first child, no depression, it is a breeze. The second child, same thing. The third child comes down with postpartum depression. Now that can strain the children. We talked about mother wounds. If I have depression, or any mental health issue, I will find it hard to bond with these children. So imagine, and we've said earlier, I have depression. My husband now gets depressed because I am depressed. Both of us are depressed. Who is going to look after these children? Yes, we will be there physically. We will buy the food. We will pay bills. We will do everything, take them to school and everything. But nobody is really looking out for these children emotionally and psychologically. These children do not have anybody they can run to, they can talk to, or anything. So these children are at a high risk of getting depressed as well. They're at a high risk of mental health issues apart from depression, and they're at a higher risk of getting mother wounds from this whole experience. And when the parents are not okay, the children always suffer. As long as these two people are not okay, the children will always suffer. If there are children in the mix, these children will always suffer. So the complications basically just come for you as the person who has postpartum depression, whether it's the man or the woman. Then the both of you, it can affect your spouse, it can affect your wife or your husband. Then the both of you are affected. Now it will affect the children. So those are the complications that come with postpartum depression. There's no specific way we can actually prevent postpartum depression. You know, it's not like there's an immunization for postpartum depression, but there are ways we can try to prevent postpartum depression. The first step is at the hospital. When you get pregnant, and this clinician, this goes for the people in the hospital who are working in the hospital, when they're dealing with women, when you go for clinics and checkups, they should check for that too. Because as we said, if you have depression or a history of depression, they should be able to get you a counselor or a psychologist to talk to, so that they can pick up if there's any perinatal depression at the point. Because we said if you don't deal with perinatal depression, it comes down to postpartum depression. So when you do the checkups and they're checking if the baby is okay, after that they should be able to also check on you mentally, ask you, how is the process, how are you feeling, are you eating well, do you sleep enough, how is your marriage, if you have somebody, you know, things like that, so that they can be able to sniff it out if there's any signs of perinatal depression. Another thing is after birth. After birth, we still go for clinic, we still go for checkup. There's immunization for the children and everything. In fact, this is the time they can be able to really pick it up fast. When you go for the first checkup, you go after 2 weeks. That is to check if you've healed. Okay, here in Kenya, we do that after 2 weeks. You go for the checkup, they check if you've healed, if the baby has healed, the navel and everything, 2 weeks. If those 2 weeks you're still feeling, as we said, the baby blues, they may be over. If it's a PPD, you will still feel the way you've been feeling, the depression, the stress, the worthlessness, anxiety, everything. That is the time they can actually sniff it out best, because it is after birth, and postpartum depression comes after birth. So these clinicians, they should be able to at least check on you, not just physically, but also mentally. They should be able to ask you this, and if they're too maybe busy for that, they can get somebody for that specific job. Another way we can prevent postpartum depression is the social support. I insist on social support. Have people who you can fall back on. Be that person for someone. Be that person for your friend. Your friend is pregnant, you don't call to check on them. Yeah, it's not like you're obligated to, but if you're really a friend or a sister, or you know you're close to this person, check on them, ask them how are you. Sometimes take your time and go and tell them, you know what, you sleep, I will take care of the child, get some rest, 2-3 hours. You go, you walk the child so that they can get some rest. You know, when you don't sleep, we said insomnia, you get insomnia because this child is crying, you have to do this, you have to wash the bottles, you have to clean the house, you have to make the bed, you have to do laundry, everything, you have to cook. I got pregnant while I was still in school, and it really helped to have these friends around. My friends, they came through for me. Hey, they really came through for me. I used to feel, and you know, I used to take my child to daycare because I still have to go to class, but our campus, there was a daycare for student mothers. So I would come from class and they would carry that child for me. I remember my best friend Hope used to carry my child from daycare to my home. And when she leaves, another one may come in, maybe Sharon will come in and we will talk. And now Sharon was another mother. So we'd really talk about a lot. She would teach me the things she has already learned because she got her child before me. And it was really nice to have people around you who you can talk to. people you can fall back on. You know, our parents are not in school, but you see these friends. That's why I'm telling you, if you really have a friend who is pregnant, don't judge them. They're already, yes, you feel they're messed up and everything. They feel the same. The last thing they need is that judgment. Even parents, don't get that mad at your children. I actually saw people in my campus, they committed suicide. Someone gets pregnant, the boyfriend runs away, the girl just kills herself because the parents have told her, don't come back. Why are you coming back with that? We took you to school to learn, you come back pregnant. Go back. Where is she going? They killed themselves. I saw that and it really broke my heart. But when you have that cushion of friends, the social support to fall back on, these people, they can really make it better for you. Managing after birth. These are the ways you can try to help yourself so that you don't have postpartum depression. Number one, ask for help. Honestly, if you've had, as we said, perinatal depression, you'll automatically have postpartum depression. When you realize you have these signs, when you realize you're going through when you realize you're overwhelmed, you cannot take it anymore, ask for help. As we said, this is why groups and organizations like us are here for you. Get somebody who can help you. Ask for help. Talk about it. Tell people how you feel. You will even be surprised. You will meet people who have gone through the same and you will not feel alone. And that's why I told you, postpartum depression, it is not your fault at all. It is not your fault. Most women do not ask for help because they feel embarrassed. Once your person tells you, are you the first one to have children? We have 10 children at our place and we don't know why you're feeling like this. My mother took care of 15 children. Why can't you take care of one child? Even mothers-in-law. Call a mother-in-law. Mother-in-law. They can come at you hard. Can come at you. Ask you, me, I have raised 6 boys. And you have this one child and you cannot raise. So I ask for help. Do not let these people mess you up more. Ask for help. Secondly, be realistic with your goals. When you get pregnant, you know you're always excited. You're like, hey, my baby, I'm going to buy a stroller for 100,000. I'm going to buy her viatus, how much, 20,000. I'm going to buy baby shawls for 10,000 each. I'm going to buy socks for 500 each. Be realistic. Work within your budget. If you expect too much and then you don't get what you're expecting, you're always going to be stressed and depressed and unhappy. So try to keep your expectations very realistic. Don't be too hyped about it. Don't expect too much. Don't be like, oh, I will be posting videos every day of my child. Hey, we will be taking selfies. We will be going to the park every day. We will be going to, Toy World and get toys. No, have very realistic expectations, yeah? So that when you don't get what you want, you don't fall hard. When you fall hard at this point, you are easily prone to get postpartum depression. So have very realistic goals. Number 3, work out. Exercise within your limits. When you're pregnant, the doctor usually advises you to work out. It is very healthy for you and the child, and it eases the birth process also somehow. So even if you've been working out before, they'll tell you to continue. But the thing you have to do is to make sure you don't overdo it. Don't go lift heavy weights and you're pregnant and you can hurt yourself. So work out within your limits. It is very good to work out when you've had your child, especially because it helps you get back your body, get out of the house. Most of the time, people who are depressed, they don't leave the house. You just stay in that house, you stay in that one couch, your breasts are there, they're sore, maybe the child is not breastfeeding, they're crying all the time, you're not doing anything, you're just in that couch the whole time, you're bored. Get out, have some fresh air. Just get some fresh air, see people outside, then you come back, you're rejuvenated, you're ready to go, you're ready to carry this child and keep going, yeah? Also, eat a very good diet. Try to have a very good diet. We understand with the economy and everything, things are very hard. But if you can, try and always have a good diet. That's why we were talking about changes in appetite when you're overeating or not eating at all. Most people who eat a lot, stress eating, they eat junk food. But when you eat well, eat good food, eat fruits, make some healthy smoothies. You'll even feel your body feels good. Your body will be okay. You release all the toxins in your body. Your milk, even your breast milk, the food you eat affects the child. So you have to eat good food, healthy food, so that your child gets good milk. They get fresh milk. They eat milk that has vitamins, proteins, and everything. You don't, if you feed your child bad food, that's when you have stomach issues with the child. The child is not sleeping at night, they're crying 24/7. You're buying this drug today, you're buying another one today, and it's just the food you're eating. So try and eat good food. It is good for you, and it is also good for the child. Sleep. When the baby sleeps, you sleep. That's why I was telling you, when my friends used to help me with my child, I used to feel good because they'd come and tell me, we're carrying your child, you get some rest for 2-3 hours, and I would sleep. So when the baby sleeps, if you don't have, maybe let's say you're alone, sleep. Or your husband is at work, nobody's there to help you. When the baby sleeps, you also sleep. Because when they wake up, you'll still be running around. You'll still be the one washing the bottles for them. You'll still have to clean the house. So when the baby sleeps, don't do all that. Because when you're done with cleaning and everything, they're up. Then you're back to this, and maybe they're cranky or something. So you find yourself developing insomnia eventually. So try as much as possible. When the baby rests, you also rest. Try to foster a good relationship with your partner. You and your husband, you're a team. This child found you there. You were there before this child was there. Your child will grow independent of you two, but the two of you have to grow dependent on each other. Because this child will leave. They have to leave. You can't stop them. Eventually they'll leave. So don't kill your relationship and make it all about this child. Everything revolves around this child. That's why you see some couple, when this child leaves, when the child is now maybe 25, they're out of the house, they're now like, what now? What do we do now? They don't have anything to talk about. They don't have anything to do. Foster a good relationship. Sometimes take this child, ask your friend, are you okay with babysitting today? Maybe for 6 hours. And if your friend is okay, yeah, sure, bring the child. Or your mom, tell mom, please, can you hold this child for 6 hours? We will be back. Go out with your husband or your boyfriend. Have fun. Catch up. I'm sure he's at work. You're at home. He comes back home late. You have been tired with the child. You just want to eat and sleep. Period. But when you go out, have some lunch, have a lunch date, a date night, go for a movie, talk about, tell him, the other day the child did this, and he'll tell you, hey, at work, my boss, it is crazy. Catch up, talk, have fun, eat something nice. For once, you're not done cooking, get a nice dinner, have fun. At least don't kill this relationship. Don't forget about it. It's the one thing that can actually keep you going. Despite your life being always the child, at least let something else take your mind off it once in a while, and let that thing be your husband or your spouse. If you have your husband, that is, or your spouse. Yeah, make time for each other as well. It really helps with the relationship. Another way we can manage is expect good and bad days. That's why we're saying have very realistic expectations. There will be some good days. Even without the child, there are some good days and some bad days. So when you have this child, yes, we really want to protect this child. We really want to keep them safe from anything. But there will be some bad days. There are days this child will fall sick. There are days your child will not be okay. There are days you will be very broke. There are days you will be okay, you'll be happy, you'll have everything you want, you'll go wherever you want, you'll do whatever you want. So just expect good and bad days, so that when the bad days come, they don't hit you hard to the point where you fall into depression. When you're expecting it, yes, it might hit you, but not as hard, because you're expecting it. So when you have that mindset, it can cushion some blows when the bad days come. Another way we can manage it is reduce isolation. Do not isolate yourself. Sometimes you might be going through postpartum depression or any other stress, and you feel like nobody's going to understand you. And I get that, because most people do not really want to talk to someone if they're not going to help you. That's why it's more comfortable as a mother, let's say as a new mother, student, young mother. I will be more comfortable to talk to another student mother who has gone through what I've gone through. We will understand each other. We will understand the judgment, the stigma. Yeah, everything. I cannot talk to someone who has not even had a child, because they will not understand. So there are people who can find themselves and they're looking around. They really want to talk to someone, but they cannot find anybody who they feel they are comfortable to talk to or they can relate. So they choose to isolate themselves. Do not isolate yourself. Reach out to, if you can't find somebody, reach out to an organization that is dealing with mental health. They will help you. Don't isolate yourself. Once you isolate yourself, your anxiety grows. If you have depression, it will get worse. If you have any sort of mental health issue, it will get worse. Even if you don't, even if it is just mild, normal, you see, like the baby blues, if you don't deal with it in mapema, it can get to postpartum depression. When you isolate yourself, do not put yourself in your own little bubble. Talk to someone, reach out, there is help. In conclusion, postpartum depression is a major depression. A lot of people do not even know it exists. I have treated patients, I have had patients who have postpartum depression, and the one thing most of them always told me was, I tried to tell my mom. That's what I'm telling you here. These mothers, this mother-in-law, they will come at you hard. They do not believe there is such a thing as postpartum depression. They just assume you're lazy, you're not strong enough. Why did you get kids? You're not ready for this. But you did not expect that. It is not your fault. When you see anybody who has these signs, if you feel like you yourself, you have these signs, you can reach out and you will get professional assistance and get you back on the right track of motherhood where you can enjoy it. Let it not be a trauma for you. Let it not bother you. You're looking at your child gets mother wounds, your child gets depressed, detachment from you. No, let us help you get back on the right track and actually see how beautiful this journey is. So that's it for today. I'll see you on the next session.